Everybody, and good evening. As you can see, it's nighttime, and nighttime is the right time to finish our paleo nutritional series. So this is the end. We've done a few videos before, and we're finishing up the Whole30. And hopefully now that you feel better, perform better, look better, you have some really good self-control around food, you have some better strategies to deal with stuff, and you know a little bit more about your body, that you can go on this lifelong journey of food. And that's really what it is. It's a lifelong journey. It's not this super sexy, oh, it's a 21-day such and such. And yeah, that gets you started, but really it's a process from there. So we've in this Whole30 or reset period, so now you've got this baseline. And you can go, okay, so anything I put on top of this will be more sensitive to any reactions that you may have. And then you reintroduce the foods, and then you modify based on your results of that. So we got to be scientific here. All right, so everyone, break out your goggles, lab coat, beakers, whatever scientific stuff you have out. I don't really have. I think that's pretty much it, right, Kyle? Do you have anything?
Bunsen burner.
Bunsen burner. That's what it is. So you got your Bunsen burner out, and what we're going to do is we're going to go over some general guidelines to get you going. And science is all about observe one variable at a time, and you can see the relationship there. And that's really what we're going to do is when we reintroduce, we need to do one thing at a time. So general guidelines. One new item every 3 days. You want to do it when you are healthy, so not when you're overstressed, sick, sleep deprived, I don't know, just got punched in the face. Those would be times that you wouldn't want to do it. So you have that new item every 3 days, and if you have no reactions to it, then you can reintroduce something else. I recommend that you have a journal or some way that you can kind of figure out or track if you have any reactions to it. Now, you'll tend to have symptoms immediately if it's an allergic reaction. You can have them within 2 to 8 hours after a meal, so maybe in the morning, also later in the day you don't feel so great, or maybe you have a breakfast and then the next day you feel less than optimal. And some of the symptoms would be, there's a long list, hold on. Anxiety, depression, fatigue, acne, dry skin, eczema, loose stools, gas, bloating. So if you're making a mess of yourself in your pants, it's probably a symptom. So anyway, those are just kind of like the general guideline to go from that. Just make sure that you only introduce one thing at a time. And if you do have symptoms with it, you wait until you go back to that baseline before you go on. So let's kind of a quick talk about the schedule. So one thing at a time. I suggest that you lead with the thing you can't live without first. Be careful if that thing is gluten or alcohol. Gluten because if you really have a problem with it, it could mess you up for a while. And it could be a while until you reintroduce something else. Or if you reintroduce something too quickly, it may give you a false negative or a false positive. Alcohol because when we get drunk, we get stupid. All right, so you should drink responsibly, and so keep that in mind. And if you do drink alcohol, I figure you should go from something that's lighter, like vodka, tequila, and then later on down the line, you're putting the less reactive stuff in the beginning. So here's a general template: dairy. Start with dairy. It tends to be something that people really enjoy. Start with things that are mostly fat, and then gradually increase to something that has more of the lactose and the proteins, casein and whey. For that, if you've really been sensitive to it, you might have to start with butter, and you might have to wait 3 days and then start with hard cheese, then a kefir, and then finally going all the way to like ice cream and then milk. So after that, you've got dairy. You're doing a white rice instead of a gluten-containing grain. That's a good way for if you're training really hard, you want to get some better fuel for your training sessions. Alcohol we already kind of went over, legumes, and then gluten. That's just kind of my template for it, and you can kind of tweak with it. Like I said, go with the one that you feel like you can't live without first. But just be careful of those evil ones, alcohol and gluten. Hopefully you had a good time in the challenge. Hopefully you learned something from the videos, and we'll see you soon. All right. Howdy, Whole30s. You guys know who I am, and you know where I'm from.
You're so buff. Who is that strange voice in the background?